Live from downtown Detroit, home of WDIV and Click on Detroit, Local 4 News at 5 starts now.
Caught on camera illegally dumping, and just watch what happens when I track this guy down.
Why'd you pull that mattress back there? Leave it on the sidewalk.
They want our mattress.
That was you.
We're tracking trash and targeting illegal dumpers. My Help Me Hank special report coming up new tonight.
An accident on Mound leads to an amazing discovery, and I think you know what that is. We'll explain what happened and what the fire inspector says is a major problem.
All right, Nick, we're going to begin in Flat Rock, where the EPA is using a high-tech tool to test levels of toxic fumes as 1,100 homes remain evacuated due to a nearby fuel leak at a Ford plant.
Yeah. Well, the good news is, right off the top here at 5, is that testing shows levels of toxic benzene have decreased in the sewer system.
But that area still remains evacuated. Crews working to contain the leak that caused it and to make sure it's safe for people to return. We've got Defender team coverage coming up. Karen Drew just got her hands on the inspection records of that leaking fuel tank, and we'll get to her in a moment.
We want to begin, though, with Sean Lay. He's live in Flat Rock, where the EPA was out testing today. Sean.
Ramped up testing indeed. We watched all day long as the EPA and other crews tested right in this area, right across the street from the Ford assembly plant, the source of this leak. But we watched them go sewer lid to sewer lid. It is a painstaking, long process. This continues to impact so many lives here, and you can tell people are just exhausted.
We decided we're going to check in a hotel just for the safety of the kids.
This past week has worn down Flat Rock mom Aurora Kuta. She wasn't going to evacuate her family from Flat Rock, but now she's changed her mind.
Just hoping for a smooth cover and pass through. We want to be this like a bad dream.
What's new today, toxic benzene levels continue to be at low levels in Flat Rock's sewer system. Ford is maintaining the gasoline leak from its assembly plant that dumped gas into the sewers, causing fumes to flow into homes. Now the focus is on testing and clearing 1,100 homes in 2 areas here with a new EPA air quality testing truck. Now we've also learned that homeowners, you are also going to be asked to help out in this process as well. One thing you're going to be asked when it's time to measure air quality at your home is remove any gasoline that you have in your garage. It has benzene in it. It gives off fumes. When it's time to measure the air quality at your house, officials want to make sure they get the most accurate reading.
If you have paint cans in the house, if you have gasoline like your gas can, your lawnmower in your attached garage, that's going to mess up the readings. So there's certain things that have to take place, and that's what they're currently doing.
And at 7 tonight, a virtual town hall meeting you'll find on Wayne County Executive Warren Evans' Facebook page. Representative Debbie Dingell will be taking part, and she wants key questions answered.
What happened, how it's being addressed, how long is it going to take to test, and all the other questions people are hearing.
And coming up live at 6 o'clock, much more about the questions to all of this. The town hall tonight at 7 o'clock. Citizens get to ask questions, but my conversation with Eagle officials saying that they're going to hold Ford accountable after their investigation is complete. They want to know, when was the leak discovered, when did Ford report it, and potentially how long people may have been exposed to these toxic fumes in some of the homes here. Guys, back to you.
Okay, we'll see you at 6. Sean, thank you. Now we want to get to Defender Karen Drew, who just got some information about the last inspection of the underground storage tank at the Ford Flat Rock plant. And Karen, this is the tank that inspectors believe was the source of this mess.
Yes, that's right, Kim, that is the tank we're talking about. Now, there's so many questions surrounding who knew what when, why wasn't more information shared, and how did an Eagle inspector visit the Flat Rock plant and miss the leak?
Let's start with the inspection of that underground storage tank that held the gasoline. According to the state fire marshal, that tank was inspected back in 2019. There were no violations found at that time. The tank was scheduled to be inspected again December of this year. We've learned these underground storage tanks are inspected every 3 years. There are 17,142 underground tanks in the state, located on 6,638 facilities or locations. Back in 2019, the state fire marshal did 2,021 tank inspections. Now to the timeline. Local 4 defenders learning about a visit by an Eagle inspector to the Ford plant on Wednesday, September 1st. That inspector did not find the leak. Eagle stating to me, nothing was observed by inspectors because all visible signs of the leak were underground. Ford later stating the company found the leak after the inspector left. Leading you to the next big question. Why, after Ford found the leak, did it take 2 days for the company to admit full responsibility?
All right, so things are heating up. My phone is blowing up because this is what happened just in the past few moments. I talked to a Ford spokesperson this afternoon. They told me Ford did alert authorities on Wednesday, but felt at that time they were not the source of the problem. After investigating, they say they realized they were the source. They took responsibility on Friday. Meantime, Eagle just contacted me and they said, no, that is not the case. It was an anonymous tip that led Eagle to return to Ford. And then at that time, Ford admitted its responsibility at that time. We're going back and forth. We're digging through documents. We will be staying on top of this. I'm Karen Drew, Local 4 Defenders. Back to you.
Okay, Karen.
Let's move to today's coronavirus numbers and another significant increase to report. State telling us there are 2,364 new cases of COVID-19 since yesterday, and that is the highest single-day count since May. 51 more deaths also being reported. That includes 10 from a vital records review.
And as the Delta variant continues to spread in Michigan, the kids are all back in class and school districts are facing the huge task of determining who needs to quarantine after an exposure and who doesn't.
And today, the state health department issued updated guidelines to help clear up some of the confusion over that. We bring in Dr. Frank McGeorge here with more on it. Doc.
Yeah, Kim and Devin. So, it's really critical to have one set of guidelines that schools and local health departments can use to make these decisions because, honestly, they are going to be making a lot of them in the near future. Now, the guidelines clearly reflect that the risk from an exposure varies depending on whether or not a student is vaccinated, how far students are spaced apart, and whether or not the individuals involved were wearing masks. COVID will find a way into local classrooms, but stopping it from spreading is key. The new guidance spells out what to do if a student is exposed to someone with COVID but isn't showing any symptoms. If the exposed student is vaccinated, they can remain in school if they wear a mask, get tested 3 to 5 days after the exposure, and monitor themselves for symptoms for 14 days. If the exposed student is unvaccinated but was distanced at least 3 to 6 feet apart, and both the infected student and the exposed student were masked, the exposed student can stay in school if they wear a mask and monitor for symptoms for 14 days. If the students are spaced less than 3 feet apart, but both are still wearing masks, the exposed student can stay in school if they test daily for 7 days and monitor for symptoms for 14 days. Or that student can stay home for 7 days and return after day 7 with a negative test or day 10 without testing. Now finally, if the exposed student or the positive student or both were not wearing masks, the exposed student must quarantine for 7 days. Now they may return after 7 days if they test negative or after 10 days without testing. This is where having everyone wear a mask will dramatically cut down on both infections and who needs to stay home. Now, any student who develops even minor symptoms at any point should stay home and get tested. Now, you can find the complete guidelines at clickondetroit.com. The State Health Department is providing schools with rapid testing kits free of charge through the My Safe Schools testing program in hopes of increasing the use of testing in schools.
So, Frank, but to be clear, these are once again guidelines rather than mandates, which kind of changes the enforcement of them.
Yeah, these are guidelines, Devin, which basically means it's going to be up to local health departments and school districts to determine if they're followed. Remember, the ultimate goal, though, is to reduce the risk of COVID spreading in schools while keeping as many kids in class as possible.
Let's hope so. All right, Doc. Well, those storms that moved through last night left more damage behind. DTE right now telling us 37,000 customers still without power.
Yeah. Thankfully, though, it's cooler outside, so the AC isn't really necessary. Let's get over to Paul to see what's in store for tonight, Paul.
Well, fortunately, a real cool evening. Again, for those without power, that's welcome relief. 78 the temperature at Metro right now. Dew points have fallen down into the low 50s, even upper 40s. That's indicative of the dry air that's come in. Winds are still gusting to 26 miles per hour. Most of us are dry. We have a few little showers out here, and I want to focus here on the I-696 corridor here. This is really kind of interesting. Look at one little shower just came through, and here's a second one just right along the freeway here. A brief downpour, then boom, the sun comes back out. So a couple of these splash and dash this evening, but those die off at sunset. Temperatures quickly falling through the 60s. We'll talk about our weekend forecast coming up. We're warming up again, and Tropical Storm Mindy has formed in the Gulf of Mexico. All of that straight ahead.
Hey, Paul, thanks. It's a miracle nobody was hurt. That's what first responders are saying about an accident this morning after a garbage truck flew across lanes of oncoming traffic.
This happened in Sterling Heights near 15 Mile and Mound, but as Nick Monticelli reports, the accident was just the beginning. It's what investigators found afterward that changed everything.
We're shut down for the day. We were supposed to go finish a couple driveways, and now we're cleaning up a mess.
Palmieri Construction is a family-owned business that is closed today. They can't get any of their equipment out because of this. Around 5:30 this morning, a driver cut off a Green for Life garbage truck. The driver swerved, lost control, drove over the median, crossed 3 lanes of traffic, and then crashed into this building. The tail end of that crash caught on surveillance video. Amazingly, nobody was hurt. Then investigators quickly realized the building is an illegal grow operation. Palmieri is not surprised.
No, not at all. Being that what we watch come and go on this road every day.
It seems like the odds of that is increasing. Sterling Heights Battalion Chief Will Walker is talking about the odds of finding an operation like this. So far this year, 650 have been found in Sterling Heights alone. It is becoming an issue, both in residential and commercial settings. Once they got inside of this building, they realized this is a much larger operation than they expected. Here's the room where the hole was ripped from that accident. Then there's a second one right next to me and a third one around the corner. The estimation, there's about 260 plants just in this building alone. Here's where it gets tricky. There are a few people growing all of these plants, and they all have medical marijuana cards. But commercial grows like this are not permitted in Sterling Heights, which makes this illegal. And the irony of this makes the business neighbors happy.
I'm real happy it happened, being the fact that what we have found out that's next door to us here.
In Sterling Heights, Nick Monticelli, Local 4.
All right, Nick. Well, he was inside the Twin Towers when the planes hit.
I don't tell the whole story very often because it's kind of painful to go through it.
New tonight, a man's story of survival on 9/11 and how not tying his shoe may have saved his life.
Also, Ford poaches a big-name talent, not from GM nor Stellantis. New here at 5, how the automaker beat out Apple and Tesla for someone to help steer a turnaround. Hank?
I wanted to talk to you about that mattress that was dumped. Why'd you pull that mattress back there?
Why did I track this guy down? It's because of what he's doing on this surveillance video. I'm Hank Winchester. Help me, Hank. We are tracking trash, and we're live tonight.